Hey everyone, my name is Cole and welcome back to Cole Protocol Films. Well, I just got out of my Dolby Atmos screening of Captain America Brave New World, the newest addition to the MCU. And to give context with everything I'm about to say here, the first two Captain America movies are probably my favorite MCU movies ever. The first Avenger is my favorite. I believe it has incredible iconography, a lot of very nuanced and emotional story beats that really hit close to home. And of course, everyone loves Winter Soldier, arguably the best MCU movie, with a lot of conspiracy, corruption, and a lot of soul searching, in the end of it. And of course, there is Captain America Civil War, which is honestly more of an Avengers movie, but I felt like we never really got a complete ending to the Cap story in kind of a movie sense. And I, of course, was not expecting Brave New World to go in that direction, but almost to pick up that mantle or write its new story. I was very disappointed when Anthony Mackie's character, Falcon, was given the shield. I felt like Bucky deserved it more. I also liked Falcon as a character on his own. I think he had a lot of screen presence, and of course, I think he is all right in this movie. But to really talk about this movie, I'm just gonna come clean with you guys. This is horrible. This is a stupid movie. Like this is gonna be a hot take, but I believe that Captain America Brave New World gives Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania a run for its money. This might be one of the top 5, top 10 worst screenplays in the entire MCU, and that is saying something. Not saying that every MCU movie is terrible, because I believe they have some genuinely incredible movies, but this has got to be one of the worst. And of course there are movies that have dumber dialogue, but this might hold your hand more than any other movie. Guys, this movie is rough, and just ahead of time, this will be spoiler free. I'm gonna do my best. There is a lot to talk about, so let's just get into it. This movie somehow manages to do everything wrong. Bad writing, weak characters, wasted talent from the actors, and some of the worst CGI I've seen in a big budget film, which this movie has a budget of over $400 million, which includes that marketing cost, by the way. So let's start with the script, because honestly, this is the thing that bothered me the most about this movie. This is where the movie completely falls apart. It's like the writers were afraid of any nuance or subtlety. Every plot point is spoon-fed to the audience. If there's a twist coming, don't you worry. The movie will basically tell you 5 minutes beforehand. The movie is so extremely anticlimactic. It's insane how there will be 2 to 3 moments of exposition dumping and characters telling you what their plan is, and there's one villain in this that is not in the trailers that is supposed to be this genius, and it bothered me because this is a very important villain in another character's story, and this character is supposed to be a mastermind genius, and he is a goddamn idiot in this movie. It is insane. If a character feels something, they'll literally say it instead of showing it through actions or expressions. It's like the screenplay assumes this audience has never seen a movie before, and I'm genuinely curious if Kevin Feige told the team to make this for infants the way it explains everything to you. It's honestly insane. I kept looking at my friend next to me and saying, are they dumb? Like, do they not think that we have brains, that we've never seen a Marvel movie before? Which, on top of that, I feel like if you were to bring a bingo card, have like little boxes to fill out of all the Marvel tropes, if there's like quips, dumb moments, it was like, oh, did that just happen? You would hit every single box. And I'm not saying that every Marvel trope is bad. I'm not just saying that to shit on the movie. But man, it is bad, guys. This movie did not hold its punches with how many of the Marvel tropes that are injected into it. And speaking of treating the audience like toddlers, this film does refuse to let you think for yourself. Every single scene has someone explaining exactly what's happening, as if we can't just see it for ourselves. Something will literally happen on screen and someone will come over and explain it to you. It is baffling. I couldn't believe this. For a movie that has this high of a budget, that has had so many reshoots, they couldn't get this right? It's insane to me. I don't get it. In Brave New World, there is no room for subtext or depth, which is baffling because the first two Captain America movies are, in my opinion, the best movies in the entire MCU at really delivering that depth and that subtlety, and that a lot of the visuals telling you what characters are feeling instead of characters exposition dumping what they are feeling or seeing or experiencing. There's just characters dumping exposition like it's a college lecture. There's no tension, no intrigue, just characters saying things like, we have to stop them before it's too late, over and over again. It's lazy writing at its worst. And a lot of people have been saying over these last few months that the trailers make it look really good. And that's not a very new thing for the MCU. They've always had pretty solid trailers And then there's a lot of movies that have been very underwhelming. They know how to bring you in and get you to already pay that ticket. But that's besides the point. I just wanted to call people out on that. And you know what's even worse than a bad script? A bad script that wastes an incredible cast. Anthony Mackie is doing his best, I'll admit it, but he's stuck delivering dialogue that is so stiff it might as well have been written by AI. And Harrison Ford, yes, Harrison Ford shows up, but he's just there to cash a check, like he has typically done with every movie other than Blade Runner. And don't even get me started on the villains. Marvel has had a villain problem for years, but this might be the worst yet. The bad guys are either completely forgettable or so underdeveloped that they might as well not even be there. If you're going to have a villain, at least give them a purpose beyond just being evil. Another thing that makes this movie feel so cheap, especially with the villains, is that characters seem to magically appear whenever they need to be with zero explanation. One character manages to break into a military installation, and then the next they're in Washington, D.C. It's insane, and as someone who is in the military, I notice this a lot because this movie was very kind of DC-focused, militarized. There is just so many strange moments with people escorting characters of the film, and those people are very low ranks, or Captain America identifying something on a military installation and completely calling it the incorrect name. It's insane. Like, they couldn't do a tiny bit of research. And just to go over this one more time, there's a character sneaks onto a military base and kills a soldier and then is just in DC. I just need to double back on that. That shit, I literally looked at my friend and we both looked at each other like, what the hell? It's so dumb. 1 minute characters are across the city, the next minute, boom, they're right in the middle of the action with no indication of how they got there. It's the kind of lazy storytelling you expect from a low budget TV show, not a multi-million-dollar blockbuster. It destroys any sense of geography or pacing and makes the whole movie feel like it was stitched together in post-production, which this movie definitely and clearly was due to the editing. There are some moments that feel so unjointed and disconnected, nothing feels fluid and authentic, and that has to do with all the reshoots and adding villains into the movie last second, and also removing actors and characters last second. I just don't know how, at this point, they haven't learned their lesson. Maybe have a finished script and talented creators and developers behind the movie before you go start spending millions and millions of dollars on having to do reshoots. I know reshoots happen in Hollywood. It's not something that's uncommon, but for Marvel at this point, it is becoming egregious. They cannot keep doing this. They need some control at some point. And if you've seen a Marvel movie before, you've basically seen this one. Every overused trope is here. The hero loses faith but finds it again arc. The surprise villain twist that you see coming a mile away, the big speech about hope and unity that feels completely hollow because the movie hasn't earned it. Nothing that happens in this movie is earned. There's a moment in the third act, literally the last 5 or 10 minutes of the film, where these characters are all of a sudden telling you their backstory and trying to have this connected moment where they feel so traumatized. They're like they haven't earned their right of these certain mantles or legacies. I'm just like, where has this come from for the last hour and 50 minutes, which is also one of the shortest MCU movies, but it feels like a 2.5-hour movie. It's just the same formula with different paint, and at this point, it's exhausting. I felt so tired when this movie ended. And now let's talk about the CGI, because it needs to be said, or should I say, whatever monstrosity they tried to pass off as CGI. The visual effects in this movie are bad, like early 2000s bad at points. Characters look rubbery, action sequences feel pretty weightless. There are multiple shots that genuinely look unfinished. It's embarrassing that a studio with Disney's resources is putting out something that looks this cheap. We've reached a point where Marvel looks worse than fan-made YouTube videos. And to harp back on the villains one more time, what is the deal with using Hulk villains? I don't care about Red Hulk that much. I've never been a huge Red Hulk guy, but there is a surprise villain in this movie, and I won't tell you what that character does or who they are, but it is insane how fucking dumb that character is written when their character should be far from dumb. And it pissed me off so much because they couldn't even get the character to look even close to being right, which makes me think even more that they threw that character in last second. And of course, that character comes back in an end credit scene that I had to wait 5 minutes for because it is at the very end of the credits. It was the most pointless post-credit scene of my entire life. I could have read that shit on Screen Rant. I was so pissed. I'm like, God damn it, I thought it was going to be anything more, but it was so insanely vague. But I hope that one day Disney finds a way to respect the Hulk, because I don't talk about him a lot, but he's a character of my childhood I really love and respect. I think there's a lot of depth and nuance and a lot of humanity in his story and the characters that surround Bruce Banner and the Hulk. And the fact that Marvel is now using Hulk villains for everything but a good Hulk movie is insane. And of course, what they've done with Hulk is unforgivable. I like Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. I don't like how they've translated his character these last few years, especially with She-Hulk, which is... But it just had me really frustrated when I was watching the movie and was watching this villain that is a very big deal to the entire Hulk lore be bastardized and just... It is insane. You have this really smart character explaining shit, and you have a character saying, hold on, don't arrest him yet, when I'm like, motherfucker, arrest that guy while he tells you his plan, because that's another trope, you know? The character's telling you their plan, how they feel, everything. It's just so frustrating. I wanted to leave the theater. It was very bad. But at the end of the day, Captain America Brave New World is a disaster. It's a movie that assumes its audience is dumb, wastes its talent, throws together a bland story full of cliches, and can't even bother to have decent visual effects. It's not just a bad Marvel movie, it's a bad movie, period. And of course, if you like this movie, it's okay. Just please remember that this is all my opinion. Nothing I say is fact. And if you think this movie is mid at the very least, I want to ask you this. Maybe a movie being mid for Marvel is the right thing. At least it might not be bad to many people. But does a movie being mid really justify this budget? A $400 million movie with obsessive reshoots? I don't think so. I think that you could make at least a mid-movie of a lower budget, or at least try to tell stories that aren't CGI monstrosities that are this huge world-destroying thing. You can make it be a little more personal and not so grand and insane and apocalyptic. That's just my 2 cents. And of course, I am probably a little more energetic in this episode because I really value the first 2 Captain America movies. And I have said this before, but I believe comic book movies should be the best movies being made, period. There's too much source material, too many amazing characters, too much potential and resources going into this genre to have movies of this quality. It is unacceptable, and I don't appreciate it. If this is the future of the MCU, then maybe it's time to hang up the shield for good. I want to hear your thoughts. What did you think of the movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think that some of the writing was horrible like I did? And did you think some of the humor landed? Do you think there's too many tropes? I want to hear it all. If you don't mind liking and subscribing, I would deeply appreciate it. It would go a long way. And hopefully the MCU finds a way to get back on track because I want it to succeed. But I can't just be praising movies that are bad in hopes that it makes money so they'll make good movies. And sadly, that is not how it works, but hopefully they will find their steps one day. Anyway, guys, peace.